So I have over $20,000 in student loan debt. And this is a video where I'm going to be transparent with all you guys and take you through my entire student loan debt payoff experience and how I'm going to get this number down to $0. Debt isn't talked about enough on social media because it's not the most glamorous thing in the world to talk about. And by no means am I encouraging being in debt, but what I am trying to provide in this video is some transparency in the space and show you the good and the bad with my student loan debt experience. Some people think every form of debt is bad. Cough, cough, Dave Ramsey. But a lot of people, including me, to some degree, also believe college can be a scam. And I'll get into that later. But a lot of people will also fall somewhere in the middle, feeling confused and stressed about student loans. So in this video, I want to be completely transparent about my remaining student loan debt, why I decided to go to college, why I chose my engineering degree, how I paid for school, and why I'm not rushing to aggressively pay off my student loans right now. For me, going to college was a very intentional decision. I didn't go to college just because that's what you were supposed to do or that's what we were told to do. I went to college because I knew I wanted a high-paying engineering degree that would land me a good job in the market right after I graduated. I was interested in engineering early on, and I chose electrical engineering specifically because it just sounded like the coolest engineering degree to get. It's got a really high demand for future jobs in the engineering field, and you could do electrical engineering across all sorts of industries. I decided to go to college because I was chasing long term earning potential, but I was also going to college for the experience as well. And I'm going to get into all the details of this later. So I'll go a little bit into my background. I grew up in Texas, and in my junior year of high school, I decided I want to go to college out of state. And I'm going to go into the background because this is kind of important to how I got into my student loans. I heard about this school in Bozeman, Montana that was located in the mountains, and it really drew my attention. It took me one visit on the campus to make the decision that I wanted to go out of state for college. So I also made a decision to go out of state to Montana State University. Also, go Cats. They just won the 2025 FCS National Championship. But I'm going to tell you all the transparent facts about what going out of state looks like from a student loan perspective. Going out of state is going to usually be the more expensive option in many cases for most people, and it's not really going to be the most financially optimal choice. But for me, it was more than just tuition. Like, I wanted to be somewhere where I could spend 4 years and do all sorts of outdoor stuff, ski, fly fish, and just being in the state of Montana was awesome. I wanted to branch out with new experiences and meet a bunch of new people, which I was the only person from my high school to go to that college out of state. And I also wanted to figure things out on my own. Being away from home gave me independence, perspective, and maturity that I don't think I would have developed as quickly as if I stayed in the state of Texas. But to sum it all up, my 4 years in Montana State, it cost a grand total of around $75,000. And looking back at that number, that seems pretty high. But the crazy thing is, that number is just rising for every college now, especially since I graduated. I feel like Montana State now for out of state is probably closer to $100,000. College is just crazy nowadays. I was also extremely fortunate to how my college was paid for, and I'm going to be transparent about all the facts here. My parents helped cover about half of my education expenses, which is a huge benefit. And not a lot of people are going to be transparent online when it comes to that. That support of having about half my college paid for gave me a massive head start in building my net worth today, coming right out of college, and I really don't take that lightly. Now, I still had to figure out what to do with the other roughly $37,000 that I had to cover. So the way I combated this was I decided to be a residential advisor for a year. That, and also got some scholarships. So all in all, with those two things combined, while also working in college, I graduated college with about $30,000 in debt and a very high paying engineering degree. And when I graduated college, I didn't panic about my student loans because I developed a plan to attack my debt. And thankfully, the student loan debt that I had was the only debt that I had at the time because I was able to work through college. So I was able to cover my rent, my general living expenses, and I didn't carry any credit card debt. And that part's going to be really important because I strongly recommend if you do have the bandwidth to work through college, because you really don't want to have credit card debt stacking on top of student loan debt and any other debt you may have. You certainly don't want to have car payment debt whenever you're in college as well, if you can avoid it. So my student loan debt has a fixed 4.2% interest rate, which I think is honestly pretty good in today's day and age. But that's the key part of this entire conversation is this fixed interest rate of 4.2%. And during COVID, that debt interest actually paused for a while. At 4.2%, my student loans are so relatively low interest that it's kind of impacting the way I pay these off. I'm going to make minimum payments on my student loan debts and redirect any excess cash that I have towards higher priority finance goals for me. I want to take that extra cash and max out my 401k, build up an emergency fund, max out my Roth IRA, pretty much do all forms of investment because I just feel like I'm in no rush to pay that student loan debt off. And this is maybe where a lot of people are going to disagree with me. And let me know down in the comments if you actually think I'm crazy for this. But, I mean, the numbers don't lie because I can reasonably expect over a long period of time for my investments to grow at a rate higher than 4.2%. Let's just use like a 10-year stretch, for example. You go, or a 20-year stretch or a 30-year. If you put your money into the S&P 500 or something like that that grows at an average of 10% a year, and I have a 10-year payoff strategy on my student loan debt, so I think I'm just going to continue to hit my investment goals. And if I have any extra cash left over, then I can put that cash towards paying off my student loans. But I'm really not going to aggressively pay these down. It's just not the most efficient use of my money. Plus, I already gained the value of this debt in the form of landing my job out of college and just the knowledge of me gaining my electrical engineering degree. And that doesn't mean I'm going to ignore my loans. And if I do hit all my investment goals in the year, like I talked about earlier, then sure, I might throw a little bit of extra cash towards that debt. I'm not planning on going back to school for anything else, so I don't have to worry about adding to that debt at all, other than the interest that it accrues. But every dollar that I would have sent extra to my student loan debts is a dollar that can't be invested, saved, or used to build my financial flexibility that I want. So if you find yourself overwhelmed by student loan debt, the first thing to understand is that you're not alone. Millions of people are in the same position and feeling very stressed about student loan debt. So if you're feeling like this, you've not failed. The worst thing you can do is when debt feels overwhelming is just to ignore it because the debt does not care about your feelings. Student loan debt is very harsh and it will not slow down. The mental relief starts when you get clear on the facts of one, how much you owe. Two, you got to know who you owe it to. Are you owing this to the federal government? Are you owing this to a private company? And what your interest rates are. That's going to be one of the main drivers. You need to know what your minimum payments actually look like on all of your debts. You need to get all the numbers on paper, and then the debt situation is often going to feel like more manageable than it does all in your head. If your loans are federal, you could have income-driven repayment plans that lower your monthly payment based on what you actually earn as a salaried or hourly employee. For some people, this can be the difference between barely like staying afloat and feeling like you're drowning in debt to having a little bit of flexibility again. There's also like deferment or forbearance can be short-term tools that you could use if you're dealing with like say a job loss or just a major life event. But I would use those carefully because like your interest is still going to accrue. So the key is like there are tools available for you and you could use these tools with intention to help pay off your debt, but it's just not a way to avoid the problem forever. You still have to have a debt payoff strategy. Another resource that like gets overlooked in my opinion is simply talking to your loan servicer or a financial counselor about like how you can pay off your debt. Many employers, I know mine does, they offer access to financial coaching as a benefit to help pay off your debt, and they won't necessarily push you towards bad decisions. If your student loan debt feels overwhelming right now, focus on stabilizing your present situation before trying to solve anything else. That means focusing on generating steady income, increasing your income if you can. You could build a small emergency fund, creating a budget that works for you. These are just things that are actually in your control that you can do that's just going to help you create a better peace of mind when you're thinking about how are you going to pay off this debt. Continuing on the point of income stability, that's the reason I'm comfortable with my debt payoff strategy as it is today. My electrical engineering degree has proven consistent, reliable income since I've graduated. I'm now over the six-figure mark with my engineering job, and that is a nice blanket of comfort for me. I am very thankful to be in this position, and I know that I am fortunate to have a high-paying job like this. And that is why I recommend, if you do end up taking a lot of student loan debts, you need to, one, get a good degree out of college, and two, try your best to land a high paying job, because you really could find yourself struggling paying off the debt years down the road. And back to my earlier point that college can be a scam, if you get one of these majors, and I know this can be a personal subject to a lot of people, but if you get a major that doesn't pay very well out of it and you go out of state and then accrue, maybe over $100,000 of student loan debt, you're going to be struggling for a while trying to stay afloat paying the debt off. So just when you go into college, just be mindful of, one, how much debt you're going to accrue, and two, whatever you're majoring in, make sure that you can have some steady income after college. The median student loan debt today is between $20,000 and $25,000, which honestly is not that bad now that I think about it, but it's just important for college students, as soon as they start taking on this debt, to have a game plan of how they're going to pay this off. And I also want to address the psychological side of student loans, because this is where a lot of people struggle the most. It can be very stressful to carry any sort of debt. The peace of mind to me also comes with having a great emergency fund and investments compounding for you in your 20s. So knowing that I have a strong emergency fund and my retirement accounts are growing, and I've built a solid financial foundation in my 20s, that reduces the stress more than me rushing to eliminate my debts. That's just my take on it. Like, I'm okay with seeing these debts even gaining interest while I'm just building my financial foundation for other stuff, because I just know, on a number standpoint, compounding interest is so important in your 20s, and I want to prioritize investing before I go pay off this debt. I also think it's important to say this too. Student loan debt becomes a bigger problem if it prevents you from building the financial freedom that you want. If your payments are manageable, your income supports the lifestyle you're currently living, and you're making progress financially, then who cares about debt that you might have? It's not going to be a trap for you. Taking on debt you can't afford is just where people get themselves stuck in a pinch. And now, if you're watching this and you still have student loans, my goal isn't to tell you what to do. It's to encourage you to start thinking about different options and choosing the best one that works in your favor. I don't regret going to college and taking on such big loans, and I definitely don't regret choosing electrical engineering. So if this video helped you think differently about student loan debts, let me know in the comments what your current situation looks like and how you're approaching it, how much debt you might actually have right now. If you want more transparent conversations about money, investing, and building a strong foundation in your 20s for financial freedom, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, as it'll help the channel's growth. I'll see you guys in the next one.